Hi, this is the Method Actor Speaks. I'm John Solari, your host, and today we have a special guest from Actors Studio. A long time been around and knows many, many great stories that really I know we want to hear. I'm here with Sharon Farrell, my co-host, and Nadine Bass. I want to welcome you to the show, and I'm going to come and join you. So we have okay. And let's talk about what you, Nadine. Let's see if we can hear. Say hello to the folks. Yes.
Hello, folks. I'm here because of my love for Lee Strasberg and the work that he continued to develop all of his life, over 60 years of coming in every day and working with his students in the Actor Studio, and the concern he had for teaching people how to relax and use their instrument, own their own trauma, not have it own you, and be able to relax afterwards so that you don't wind up caught up in it. And
that's interesting, because we were talking about that yesterday with something Martin Landau said, our pain is our greatest gift. Now, when he was explaining that to you, how to let it go.
Letting it go, and then he just, part of it was, he would say, these people finally get to this place of fame and they're where they've been fighting to get in their careers, and they self-destruct, and it broke his heart. He saw so many of them, and learning to relax and let it go, and knowing you're creating it, you don't have to live it. It is you, but you can relax. You don't have to live it every minute. That's not what method means. You use yourself, and you let it go, and you are creating it. Yeah, you are using you are giving life to a character with your experience. You don't reduce the character to you.
Could you give us an instance of something so the audience would know what we're kind of talking about?
Well, I guess I could talk about, there was a time when there was a gentleman who had bought the rights to The Elephant Man, and he was touring Broadway and all around. I remember that.
Right.
The original play.
The original play,
The original play. And I guess the movie had come out not too far away from it. But the guy that bought the rights and was doing the play came to Lee's class one day. And I don't think he'd ever studied acting. And he got to a point where he was kind of telling Lee. And, everybody just kind of pasted themselves back in the seat. They knew the storm was brewing, the leaves and
the calm before the storm.
Yes, the calm before the storm, and the clouds were going to part, and the lightning, and all hell was going to break loose. And sure enough, flames came from out of his ears and his mouth and his nostrils, and basically he was saying, you do not reduce the character to you. You are giving your life to the character. Right. And he was a little perplexed because he really didn't have a craft. He hadn't really studied. He thought, I feel like I'm deformed and nobody sees me, and I bought this play, and that was really all he had to say. And didn't want to listen to
that, didn't he?
David Lynch directed the movie. Yes, yeah. Mel Brooks bought it, and Anne Bancroft, who I got to know.
Oh, that's interesting, because she was a member of the studio.
Yes, she was the only woman in the directing class with me. I was a teenager, right. And Lee decided he was going to have a directing class, and I got in it. First, Anna said, no, you just leave that to the old men, and you keep on with the acting class. And then that night, there was a scene night of the students for Lee to see what was going on. And I had already studied acting with Lee at that point. I was probably like 19 now, a whopping 19. And so I had directed a scene of a friend's play, and Lee was there. And afterwards, Anna said, the person that directed that scene would like to be in your directing unit. And Lee said, that was well done, sure. And she said, that's Nadine, that was in your, oh yeah, she can be in it. And Anna made a point of saying, I want to let everybody know I was wrong, and she was very sweet about it and said that Lee said yes, and so that started my studying with Lee as a director as well. And Anne Bancroft was in a few classes. and she was the only woman at that point. And then at the end, Mimi Leader came in for some and brought in Playing for Time to work with Lee. But those were the only two women I saw. I was in his New York one too. There was no other women ever.
And who were some of the males? Do you remember who was in it?
There was a guy that produced The Sting. There was a guy that did the choreography for Flashdance. Really nice guy with blonde hair. He was dating Leslie Ann Warren at the time, who was in the studio.
Actually, Leslie was one of the youngest members ever to get in. She told me she was 19 when she got in.
She was great, and James Dean was 18.
Yeah. Oh.
And I think Sally Kirkland was 18.
Oh, yeah, because I remember Sally telling me. Sally's coming back on the show next month, and
We'll give her my best.
she will. So onward, this is interesting about the directors unit, which is now called the writers.
Oh, the PD unit.
Yeah.
Well, in New York, I did lighting for all the shows so that I could watch the playwright directors unit, which was then headed by Ilya Kazan and Norman Mailer together.
Oh, yes.
And after Lee died, the only person that came close in his intellectual power and getting the grasp of your intellect and emotion all at once was Kazan.
Kazan.
He could speak like that.
Yes. What about Norman for the writers unit?
Well, Norman.
Bell.
He was just he was a different kind of a speaker.
Yes.
And he used to kind of like to take little jabs at Kazan. Said, you started writing too late. You're never going to really have a style.
Yeah.
You have to start writing really young to have a style. I remember that, and he'd watch Kazan's face, kind of.
A little bit of jealousy.
Yeah, they were always kind of but.
You were there with the
That's
greats.
a terrible thing to say. You have to start young to write. You're never going to do it.
It's not something Lee would say.
Oh, golly, no. Because you just write and you write and you write and you write and you write. After you've done about 30 stories, maybe once it just takes a lot of writing.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with age, because a person at 18 could die at 19. You know what I mean? And a person at 40 can live to be 140 probably.
That's true.
That's
Yeah,
just a
and in
stupid
Hollywood,
remark.
I hear, I don't know if it's gotten younger, but I remember when I was younger, they would say, there's not an agency in town that will sign a screenwriter over 35.
Today,
Well, you just lie, because who can tell?
I lie. I tell people, why would you ask me my age? I'm just gonna lie, and I've been saying that since I was a teenager. I said, I'm never gonna say my age.
No, I just totally lie. I even changed my birth certificate at one point to get a role.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah, especially if you've got like a.
I'd like to put like 1911 or something.
Well, you have to do the years that you can do. Like I had a 0 and I could make a 6 out of. I could have made an 8. I could have made an 8, so I'd be born in 1948 instead of 1940. But I made it into. I was born in 1940, so I could make it into a. I could make that into a 6. And at the time, I was 29, and they weren't seeing. I had to be 23, so I just made it into a 6. But if you've got like,
and these men make such a big deal about the 20s.
Age,
I was
yeah.
told that too when I think I was 26. They said, you're really too old to
you're too old
try
to
and
do
be an
anything.
actress now.
At 26.
Well, who else were some of your peers
Oh.
back then that you used to work with? We want to hear some of the stories that I want to hear what you have to say about the studio.
Well, first I'll just give a shout out to some of the people that I saw on your show.
Sure.
John Matthews, was great to see him again. When I went back to teach at the Institute for a while, I went and did the relaxation in his class because I hadn't done it in a while.
Right.
And he was such a fine teacher, and he really helped me through a huge breakthrough in a traumatic area of my body. And there's no one like Lee. I just want to say this, that took 2 hours out of every class to teach you about your body, your instrument, and focusing your concentration on creating something from your psyche, from your own DNA. There isn't another teacher in the world. And that's bottom line. Why there's no one like Lee, and I feel bad for kids now that don't have access to things like that. That's why I think what you're doing is so important, and I hope that there will come again
We need it.
resurgence in that.
What was that? What was the exercise though? I want to know
Wait,
what he
so-
did.
Okay.
What he did. I mean, she kind of went around
Well,
it.
it's an hour. You do a relaxation for an hour, and you'd sit in a chair, and you'd find a position where, as if you could go to sleep, and you continually moved your body. You didn't lay there against habitual movements, and eventually you would find little locks and blocks in your muscles that were holding in just habitual, what you would call habits of non-expression.
Tightness
And those were habits of non-expression that are drilled in by society. And when you would, sure enough, if you release a big knot or something, it would take a while, tears would come, and if you stuck with it, the incident itself, what happened to you is all in your body, it's all locked in your muscles. And he would literally say that mental tension, emotional, sexual tension is in these different parts, and when the muscles that you release, the holding the traumas there, the traumas are specific to the area. And it was right on the button with every person.
Did you have to have your
time.
eyes closed?
You closed your eyes, and then you'd move your face and move against it, and almost every human being, when you'd have the trauma come up, the upper lip would, you know what I'm talking about, would quiver. It would quiver because the muscles of holding in what you're going to say are trained so young. And that is releasing when you're going to say the thing that traumatized you. And he would be very...
So you'd start with the face.
No, it's your whole body. You just keep moving around and relaxing and relaxing and
So
relaxing
how would
everything. And you focus on...
I wanted to do it.
You take...
I never heard of this before.
You never heard of the
I never
relaxation?
No,
heard
let her
I never
finish
heard
it,
of
then
that
we'll talk
technique.
about it later. I'll let you do it with her.
I did do a class in Fairmount, Indiana last year at the James Dean Gallery. I've been working on a documentary about the significance of James Dean and the turning point in art, in culture, in youth, in cool, and the fact that this is not a guy that just stood around with his hands in his pocket. This is someone who came and studied with the greatest people in acting, in dance, in music.
He took it all. He did it all.
He was not a hot dog. He was not a poser. And the people that came to the studio that were accepted, maybe 2 a year, it was a very high honor as an artist.
Yes.
And that remained while Lee was alive. It may have changed from degrees, from decade to decade, from the 50s to the 60s to the 70s, but if you were let in by Lee Strasberg,
You were good.
that was no small.
And because Martin Landau, I remember he talked about that the year that he was let in. 2,000 people auditioned that year.
Oh, thousands, yeah, all
Yeah.
year long, yeah.
And only 2 got in. I think it was him and
Him and Steve McQueen, yes.
And who she knows.
Mhm.
Yeah. And who never told, she used to go out with Steve and did a film with him.
I've been friends, like Leslie Ann Warren has never told me that she was a member of the studio. Mark Rydell, of course he's a director, and he
I've seen
only
him on
hired,
it.
he hired everybody from the Actors Studio.
Mhm.
But
I mean,
Steve
Steve
never
mentioned you.
mentioned, he taught me techniques. He taught me a lot of techniques, like, in the sun, in bright lights, how you
Yeah.
sun your eyes, that kind of thing. But
Okay.
never told me.
But that's, I want to have the exercise and stuff I want to do later. How did you get involved with because all I keep hearing from you is nothing but love of acting. Well, actually,
That thing is like,
I know, it's all right, it's homemade.
can I
No.
fix it?
No, I just, if you want to fix it, fix it.
Okay. Let me fix it. Let me just push that
Well,
back
you
there.
can leave it on and put it behind his head. Look, I was a script supervisor, I'm sorry I had
Okay.
to.
I know.
Okay.
Actors always are fixing each other.
James Dean would have loved this. But all I hear from you is, the love that you have for Actors Studio is one of the reasons I really wanted you to come on this show, is because there's so much history that you can tell, and I know it's come from a place of not ego, but out of caring for the actor.
Oh my God, I had no ego. I was just considered myself a fly on the wall, and I used to go all the time with Shelley Winters. What happened was I was doing lighting so that I could get into the playwright, watch the playwright directors unit, because I wanted to see those
I want
guys.
to stop you right, because people don't really, I remember, I just want the audience to know, I really apologize. A lot of people used to clean the toilets, everything, just so that they could get in and watch a session.
Yes.
And that's what you had to do at Actors. They called them working observers, and they would clean the toilets, everything. And there was a waiting list just to get in. And
Now I had gotten my status from being audition partner on 2 different things, but they didn't let anybody in that playwright unit unless they were a director. They didn't even let the members couldn't just go if they were actors. So I was determined, because I was really more interested in being a director than anything. And in those days there was Ida Lupino, and that was about it, And so I learned the lighting board, and I did lighting for, Shelley Winters was directing a play that Marcia Hoffrick wrote, and it was all women, High Tide and something in the ladies' room. And Susan Batson was in it, who is right now probably one of the top coaches of the best actress. She goes back and forth. She goes back and forth, LA, New York, and she was Nicole Kidman, Juliette Binoche, a lot of people. And
a lot of people don't realize that when a star gets a role, they have a coach that gets them, works with them.
Oh yeah. Montgomery Clift in the beginning of his career always had Mira Rostova with him at all times, and it used to drive the directors crazy. And then, of course, the stories about Marilyn always having Paula Strasberg at her side, and it would drive the directors crazy. But as someone who's directed features, it's hard for people to feel that the director is giving them attention,
of course,
because there's lighting.
You got a conflict of interest going on.
You have to make your day.
Right.
And I did go up to my producers at one point that I had worked with when I was a script supervisor, and I said, you guys take 2 hours to set up a bed for a guy to fall off a building and land on it. And you don't want to give my lead actress 10 minutes to complete her dialogue. You want her to just start at the beginning and then end the conversation and nothing.
No rehearsal.
No rehearsal. Not be able to speak the scene all the way through. And she's asking if she can. Yeah, she can. She can.
Good for you.
I mean, this is not a movie about jumping off buildings. This is a movie about what's going on with these people. So, yeah, we're going to let that be the priority. And, it happened. It happened. And that actress, by the way, is a member of the Actors Studio, Kelly Curtis.
Oh, one of my favorites. Yes, you can. That's Tony Curtis and Lee, Janet Leigh's daughter. What a brilliant actress she is.
Brilliant actress, and I had a couple of friends that I told them, I said, you guys are my puzzlers. Why are you guys not major stars? Kelly Curtis was at the top of the list, and Lexi Masterson. I don't know if you were in New York, you knew her. Her parents were Pete and Carlin.
Oh.
Pete Masterson, brilliant director,
Sure.
And Carlin Glenn, talented actress, talented singer. Her sister Mary Stewart has a great
Carlin
career.
still teaches.
She's a great teacher.
Moderates at the studio in New York.
Oh, she's great.
I did the Executioner song for her once, and it came out. It was really bad, and she told me too, and I was so happy for that. I always.
But she knows her stuff, don't you?
Right, I respect
You
it.
have to have somebody who wakes you up.
Well, that's what
You don't go to the Actors Studio for compliments.
You don't.
If you want somebody to tell
like
you.
Estelle Parson.
Oh, I loved her. I
I know.
studied with her.
No prisoners.
She had a class on Tuesday afternoons after the session, and
Yes.
She asked, the biggest thrill of my life, she asked me to read one line in a reading of a movie that she was supposed to be cast as Alice B.
Token, yes.
And Mandy Patinkin was going to play Hemingway, and they were writer-directors that were really behind-the-camera people. They didn't have any knowledge of the industry, really, and they didn't really want to hear Estelle's ideas, I guess, and they kind of bailed on her, and the movie was nothing.
Nothing. I mean, Estelle is so... I invited her to coffee once.
So interesting as an actress. I always loved her.
Her daughter's another one.
She's out here. I'm trying to get her to come on, so if you watch this, come on. But I remember I invited Estelle out for coffee after a session in the studio, and she says, you know, I won't be kind to you.
Oh, she's warning you up front that she's gonna.
She says, "This is, you know, like I was bribing her to take a coffee."
Yeah,
but
I was amazed when that's the beauty of what was the Actor Studio that you don't see now.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of fanning of smoke. The Actor Studio was all about the truth and peeling away the social niceties and bullshit that people have to try and make friends and get jobs. This was the Actor Studio was about, okay, you were really
It was about the work.
holding back there. You didn't understand this part of the scene. You didn't come in doing what that person would be doing.
Right.
The scene wasn't taking place. You stood there and talked and got all the lines out. You came in knowing the end of the scene, and the whole thing, basically, what Lee would be shouting over and over and over again at the top of his lungs, I see you came in and read the scene. I don't need the end. I don't need the end at the beginning. And the times that I've taught and guest lectured.
What did he need? Can I ask you that?
Well, you are there doing what you'd be doing if the scene wasn't taking place.
Right.
If you're in the kitchen, for God's sake, you know how to chop a vegetable or know how to use it. Don't be afraid of props. You're going to have to use them if you're in a movie anyway. You're going to have to really be using them. You have to know what you're doing. Do it. And guess what? In life, you can talk and cut vegetables or fry an egg while you're talking. You really can.
Yes.
And so, why not be a human being when the camera rolls? Instead of stop and let the thing burn and talk to somebody, you know. And this poor man, you know, session after session, and all the teachers really would say this. And I was a furniture mover at the Actor Studio for the auditions. I was a furniture mover for the auditions because I really wanted to see what went on in the torture chamber. And everybody went up there with this look of, I'm going to suffocate, I'm going to die. And they were, you could tell a lot of these people had never even done an audition. They weren't actors. Some of them were like, maybe took a class or two. But at some point, everybody would try and audition for the Actor Studio if they lived in New York or whatever. I did it in New York, where I did the furniture moving. And I saw one woman who was famous for a Washington scandal. With the blonde hair, do you know what I'm talking about? She took her clothes off for her audition.
Was it Jennifer Flowers? No.
No,
another one. Yeah. But anyway, go on.
No,
you can say it.
Oh, her name was Elizabeth something. Anyway, she used to hire me to work on lines with her, and she'd never be there. I'd be sitting in her lobby, and she'd just never be. And I talked to her on the phone. She says, "Yeah, come on over. I'm here." And she'd pay me for the time, and I'd be sitting there waiting for her. But anyway, she took her clothes off for her audition. I guess she thought that was her asset. And I saw
private moment.
I saw some crazy stuff, but it was always really clear when somebody did a great job. They'd always say, "It's 5 minutes. Stop if you go over 5 minutes."
Right.
Have a beginning, a middle, and an end. The character comes in one way, goes through something, and comes out the other end.
Say that again, because Sharon is thinking. I want you to
come
hear
in.
that.
You come in. You don't know the end of the scene when you come in. You come in doing what you'd be doing if the scene wasn't going to take place. If you're fixing your hair, if you're fixing your car, if you're writing a paper, whatever it is.
Straightening up your apartment, whatever.
But it's specific. You are specifically doing something like a human being would do something.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm just going to get away for a minute here. Go ahead, keep talking.
And while you're doing that, the other person is giving you information, be it on the
Say
nose, be it on the nose.
You hold that.
No, okay.
Me?
Because I'm loud.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear
Be
you.
it on dialogue in real life is almost never on the nose, and good writing is never on the nose. So you are realizing the meaning for the character as you're doing the activities, and it comes through your body, and you see it in the way you're cutting or sewing or cleaning or driving or whatever the activity is. It comes through it, and Lee would just get up and show people and scream and beg them to think like a person and not like an actor, and come at you. Then you arrive at the other end. You've experienced something, and then you have arrived at the end of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what they looked for in the audition. And whenever I teach people, you know, outside of the method, I'd say 100 times out of 100, I have to say, okay, you're going to go out, you're going to come in again, and I don't want to know you read the play, if that's possible. I want to know why you're coming in here.
How do they do that, Nadine?
That's good.
How would you tell somebody to...
I would ask them, I said, I know you brought props. I know you didn't just come here to stand and face somebody and talk. You came here to do a scene. You came here to be this person. And I said, you know, if this was my class, I would expect it to look, you know, like the airport in here. I expect everybody to come in here with their carry-on luggage and have their props here. And I would talk to them about how I would shoot it, where I'd need to put the camera, where the camera would be at a certain point, and to get them to understand matching. And a lot of method actors would say, well, you're feeling it, you don't have to match, and it's impossible. And I'd say, Lee had an exercise for matching, the song and dance exercise.
You song and
The
dance?
song and dance
What is
exercise. So, you know what that is, right?
Yeah, I've heard it.
The song and dance is, you'd pick a song like Happy Birthday to You.
Yes.
You know the words,
Yeah.
and it's not, you don't, so the words come out naturally, which is how the words should come out when you're doing your scene. Lee would always say, don't memorize the words consciously. The muscles of the tongue will hold them to be said exactly the same way every time, and you're in trouble. So that's not how you learn lines. You write them down over and over, and they're just words, and you say them as words. And in the sensory exercises, he'd have you saying the words as you would be doing a sensory exercise of heat and another exercise of, say, making the bed or whatever, you know. So that the words are just coming out, or words to a song. And then the once you got the words, you know what you're going to say, you're standing still, and then he would have you find kind of an abstract movement that involved your body. That was against the grain. Your arms would flail and you'd flop over. You're still standing, but you know, you'd flop over or something, and you'd burst out a syllable, and then you'd repeat that movement again with the next syllable, and you'd find a way to get that movement exactly as fully as you did it the other time. Hap, pee, and you'd go through, and you'd still feel, you'd recreate, and you'd feel that feeling that was that abstract movement, and you'd keep going with the words that you knew by heart that you didn't have to think about. And I try and use that as an example.
It's a great example.
Yeah, that
to
is
match, because in movies you have to match.
Yes, and speaking of matching, we're going to come back with part 2 with Nadine Bass.
Boy, that went fast.
And this time, We'll try a few of the exercise with
Oh,
Sharon.
this is good. I like